Hi everyone. We'll just wait a minute just so everybody's joining. I can see that people are joining us online, so we'll just wait 1 minute so everybody is allowed access. Quite a few people joining us from around the world, which is great to see. So I think we've got everybody. I'm looking at Pascal to give me the thumbs up. I think we've got everybody that was waiting coming in. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody that's joining us for this Global Teaching Excellence event. My name's Ruth Crabtree and I'll be chairing the panel today. I sit on the board of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education and also on the World Association of Sport Management. I just want to briefly introduce the purpose of today and also introduce us to some key people and the structure of today. But I'm absolutely delighted that a couple of weeks ago we celebrated International Women's Day on the 8th of March. And ICSPE continues to strive for gender equality with a roundtable on women leaders in sport as part of our Global Teaching Excellence session. Global Teaching Excellence is a joint initiative of ICSPE and the World Association for Sports Management aimed at people who are passionate about learning and teaching. And I'm delighted today that we've got a real expertise panel that are going to present and have a roundtable discussion. But before we start that, I just want to pass over to Pascal, who works at the International Council for Sports Science and Physical Education Office in Germany. And he's going to introduce us about some of the projects and initiatives that ICSPE have been doing. So Pascal, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Maybe I share my screen. Okay, now I'm not seeing you, so maybe you're seeing my screen now.
Yeah, we can see that, Pascal.
Okay, fine. So ICSPE is involved in a host of projects, or has been historically involved in a host of projects that has to do with women and sport, and especially with the participation of women in sport in various areas, be it in high performance sport, in grassroots sport as well. And this is one of the project, European funded, EU funded Erasmus Plus project that ICSPE is involved in, with all these beautiful consortia that you see here, the logos of the project partners. And it has been 2 years already that we have been working on this project, and it has been really great. So what we intend to do now is to share with you a few of the findings that we had, because ICSPE was responsible for work package 2, which was literature review, and then we conducted a survey and focus group discussions with women on how to increase participation of women in sport. So basically, that's the objective of the whole project was to identify possible factors that were involved in the gender gap, mainly of athletes in European sport federations, and that was the main, more or less, the framework that we used to identify the constraints and facilitators that enhances women's participation in sport, or that inhibit women's participation in sport in various levels, including leadership that we will be talking about today as well. So we are just trying to bring in some of the results that we got from the 3 activities that we did, that is the literature review, the survey, and the focus group discussion. So in the literature review, we find that there are still symbolic violence against women, which are mainly reproduced through the languages of men, most especially in the sport organizations and in different areas of sport. We also find that there is a similar, also in the survey that we conducted, a similar finding, which also explains that the more women stays in sport, the more experience they have in their different areas of their sport, the more also they experience these interpersonal constraints of symbolic violence, which we find out in the literature review. Also, in the focus group discussion, we also find that this symbolic violence that women experience of being in sport also also perpetuated by different actors or stakeholders within the sports system, like the public, as we highlighted them here in green, or sometimes also with their fellow athletes who are male athletes, and sometimes also with the coaches who coaches some of these women, or who are also working with them if it is at an organizational level. Another of the constraints that we identified, especially at the structural level in the literature review, was that women were given certain positions within the sport organizations with the intention that they had certain feminist characters that would help the sport federations, and not necessarily based on their competencies. So it is assumed that women are good in politicking, in networking, so they were involved or included in the boards of some of these sport federations. We also find had a similar finding in the survey that we conducted, that the older women are in their sport organizations or in the boards of the sport organizations that they find themselves, the more they experience discrimination or unwritten rules that favors men within these sport organizations. And then we also find, as you would see, that this is a direct quote from the focus group discussion, where one of the participants explained that they were included in the board not necessarily because they were competent, but because the federation sees that including women would get them sort of seen qualified as having women in their boards, and then they will be able to get the required funding required by the authorities. Talking about the constraints, then they are also facilitators, things also that helps women or has motivated women or has kept those that are in especially strategic positions in their sports until now. So one of the facilitators we find as at an interpersonal level are the roles of the network, especially that women have, their teachers, the role models, women, influential women within their network, women coaches, women referees, and other women in the boards as well, also help motivate women to aspire for higher positions and also to maintain them in those positions as well. We find also that in the survey that role models play a significant role in maintaining women or younger women to aspire to be for certain positions in sport organizations or in different other areas of sport. As we could see in these findings, particularly, there is a bit of a difference as well, depending on the area of sport, as it says here that women umpires and have more role models than coaches as well. In the focus group discussion as well, we also find a similar finding that also backs that up, that this woman specifically is in the sport to help contribute or give back to her sport and to motivate other women as well. The other facilitator, which is also structural, that we find out is about the gender quota. Even though a lot of the project, I have to say, is a European Union project, so it is the survey and all what we did was mainly based on European Union level. But we find that, yes, there has been a lot of improvement, especially with regards to the gender quota. But most of these quotas are not regulated at the national level, like with other authorities. There are initiatives of the sports organizations to adopt regulation, to adopt this quota as within their sports regulations. We also see that it is important that stakeholders outside the sports sector imposes these quotas on the sport organizations, so that it also helps the sport organization to strengthen or to really put this quota system into practice. At the focus group level, also we find that most of the participants agreed that quota system has really improved the participation of women in sport in different sectors. So at the end of the research, we had a question that we said that the respondents could identify 3 words that they associate with women and sport. When they think about women and sport, what do they think about? The 3 words that came into their mind. So these were the words, some of the words that were identified by those that participated. So we could see that there are a lot of interpersonal, really at an individual level motivation for women to participate in sport, and that also is sort of to a large level the the dividing factor or the defining factor into their participation in sport. So those are just the short findings that we brought because of the time. And you could visit the project website, the Gap Women project website, for more information, because all the results are published there as well.
Great. Thank you,
Excellent.
Pascal. It's really good to see that we've got a great project going on here, an initiative, and great to see that there's a lot of research being undertaken across Europe and further afield. And I could encourage people that if you want to get more information, you can contact the office, look on our website, or also contact the details there that Pascal's just put up. So thank you for that, Pascal. Great to see. So we'll now move on to the roundtable discussion, where I'm delighted that we've got world leaders, international, global female leaders in sport. And I just want to briefly introduce them and thank them for the time for taking part in this. So first of all, we've got Eva Werthman from Germany, who is the head of the corporate communications at the German Olympic Sports Confederation. She's over 15 years experience in the field of sport and communication, having previously worked at the International Paralympic Committee and the German Triathlon Federation. During her time at the German Triathlon Federation, she's been part of the Media and Marketing Commission of the European Triathlon Federation and the Women's Committee of World Triathlon. Her passion for sport and the Olympic and Paralympic Games has had a major influence on her professional career. So thank you, Eva. Next, move on to Usha Nair, who is from India and is currently serving as the Vice Chancellor at the National Sports University in Impala, India. She serves on the Development Committee of the International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education, and she also took on the role of the Secretary at the International Society of Comparative Physical Education and Sports, showcasing her deep commitment to the field. Usha's dedication extended to her appointment as the co-opted member of the International Association of Physical Education and Sport for Girls and Women, and her significant impact on physical education is exemplified by her coordination of PE and community coaching programmes initiated by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports in the Government of India, which has positively impacted about 25,000 female PE teachers. Usha, great to have you here. And we also have Helen Mann from the UK, who is a senior lecturer at Sheffield Hallam University and has over 22 years experience of working within higher education. She also has significant experience in the sports industry as an applied practitioner, working in development roles for various national governing bodies of sport, local authorities and national coaching organisation. This experience of working in underrepresented environments has instilled in Helen her passion as a strong female advocate in sport. She currently leads on a university project called Game Changers, which aims to increase confidence and leadership skills amongst female student communities and increase recruitment of female students onto the future workforce of the future. So Helen, great to have you on board as well. So without further ado, I want to go to the first question, which is about gender equality. So I'm going to come to you first, Eva, and ask you, what does gender equality in sport mean for you?
Well, thank you, Ruth. Gender equality in sport means for me that men and women have the same possibilities to strive towards what they want to achieve. No matter if it's on the field of play or if it's in an organization, if it's as a coach. So they should get the same opportunities. And that for me is gender equality in sport.
Great. Thanks, Eva. Usha, the same question to you. Usha, you've got your microphone switched off.
Gender equality in sports refers to ensuring that all individuals, regardless of gender, have equal opportunities, resources, and recognitions in sports participation, competition, leadership, and representation. It encompasses various equal access. Just giving opportunities is not enough. Fair treatment, representation, respect and recognition, safety and inclusion. So it's a collaborative effort from various stakeholders. To me, by 20, 30 or 40, with this International Women's Day, we should have a women athlete. It should be just women leaders in sports. Thank you.
Thanks, Usha. And Helen, the same question. Gender equality, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's about changing the narrative, particularly changing the narrative in women's sport, and looking at it, you know, across all levels, from coaching, officials, leadership, you know, chief executive officers, the whole spectrum, right through from community to elite sport as well. And it's around, you know, making women's sport, I guess, the norm rather than the exception. And if we achieve that, then I think that that's when we'll possibly achieve full gender equality. Thank you.
Just on that, Helen, how far off do you think we're achieving that?
Ooh, well, there is. I mean, I can very much speak for what's happening within the UK, and I think we've made massive strides forward. You know, I think the growth of women's sport at all levels has been significant. I can share some statistics with you later on, I'm sure, but we still have got a significant way to go. So it's getting better, but we've still got a way to go.
And Usha, I'll come to you from the Asian side of things. How far advanced do you think we are with those ideas and ideals?
Same as mentioned by Helen, there's a lot of significant improvement. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India is taking key initiative. In the past decade, 10 years, there's tremendous changes. Rural areas, male-dominated sports, we find women getting in. In the Sports Authority of India, most of the administrative positions have been given to women. The Indian Olympic Association is chaired, our president is a female. The Secretary of the Youth Affairs and Sports is a woman. So there's a change, and our Honorable Prime Minister of India, who speaks for physical education. I don't think that there's any other country who do that. And you'd call our women and girls as daughters and mothers. So that's what's made a tremendous change. And I'm sure in times to come, India would be a role model. So we are heading in the right direction.
Great to hear. Thanks, Usha. And Eva, what's happening in Europe and Germany and the organisations that you work with and see?
Well, as Helen and Usha said, there have been some significant progress, but we still have a way to go. So, for example, we have 101 member federations in the German Olympic Sports Confederation, and only 16 of them have female presidents. So that's what we put a focus on Women's Day on 8th of March. And then the other thing is we have introduced last year for our annual General Assembly that we need a quota for delegates that are sent to the General Assembly, because we are around 20% female delegates, and we need to get that up to at least 30%. So we've introduced that. On the other side, when you look at the Olympic Games, Paris 2024, for the first time, will have full gender parity. So we will have 50% female athletes and 50% male athletes, which is really good. And then my expertise is within the media and reporting in the media. At least in German media, it's very male dominated. So we only have about, I think, 10 or 15% women's sports in the newspapers or on TV. So that's where we really have to catch up.
Great. You've mentioned over there some significant stakeholders and the role that they play. And there's advancements, but we're not quite there yet. So just while we're on you, Eva, what do you think individuals or society can do to help reform gender roles in sports organisations? And you've mentioned a couple of organisations there, but we've got people from education and everything. So how can we? You've mentioned a few ideas, but how can we help further that?
I think having role models really helps. So role models that tell the story, and show female girls and women how to get there, and that it's possible, that they can believe in themselves to really get there. And then mentorship programs, I think, could also play a really important role.
Thanks, Eva. I'm going to come to Usha next. And what do you think? What roles do we have to play in organisations to help further this?
Initially, I feel it's promoting diversity. individuals can advocate diversity in sports leadership by actively supporting and promoting appointment of women and individuals from underrepresented groups. This is what we have been doing, going into the rural areas, getting those from under, so that actually that can be catchy. Education and awareness is something which we could, the leadership, the roles in sports leadership, by raising awareness about importance of diversity, gender equality in sports governance, because at the school level we have a she, like there's something in Kerala we call, it's only for the women and the girls that they come in, but the she leaders who come in, they call it as that. Then, as rightly pointed, mentoring, but besides that, networking and creating policies, because I feel it's no one to be left out, getting it everyone together. Then we could say, yes, we've achieved. Just by a group, I don't think. And amplifying voices, because I find that's the thing. And right now we thought of starting a podcast series where we could amplify. I think if you can bring in the voices, make them speak up, that can bring about a real change. And the biggest challenge, especially in India, is they don't speak up. So that's one. But I think we are trying to come up with a platform, and we are trying for changes. So we're pushing, and I think it might work. Thank you.
Yeah, and you've highlighted it lovely there, Usha, and the fact that you have provided webinars for female PE teachers in India and got over 25,000 on those webinars going out live is a brilliant example of how you're doing that and changing that voice in India. So well done on that. Helen, the same question to you.
Yeah, just picking up on Usha's point there, I think we have to continue to challenge. I think we have to continue to push. I think we have to continue to, call out things when we feel that things are unequal and unfair. And when I say sort of challenge and call out, I don't necessarily just mean females or women or people who associate as women. I mean male allies as well. We've had some fantastic examples of quite high profile male athletes like your Andy Murrays, or your, Pep LaGuardiers, when they're being interviewed on television and asked about, you're going for when they were talking to Pep LaGuardia, the manager of Manchester City, how does it fit? One of the male journalists said, how does it feel to be the first manager, is it to win the domestic treble? And Pep LaGuardia actually said men's, because obviously the women had already done it, and that's just the impact actually that has beyond maybe necessarily a female is really significant. So yeah, continue to challenge, but in a constructive way, not an aggressive way.
Great, thank you. And it kind of touches on what Ava was saying about the role that the media plays and the impact the media can have on that as well. So the three of you have touched on some of the barriers, some of the ideas about how we can advance women leadership in sport, but what are the fundamental barriers? And you've mentioned some of them, but I'd just like you to highlight and choose some of the fundamental barriers you think stop women becoming sports leaders on the international global environment. So Usha, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I feel initially the first one being limited access to resources. Giving opportunities different. I think besides opportunities, we need to give in access. And that's one which is lacking in terms of, here I bring in male and female, because we talk of even talk of cricket where India is doing so well, things are improving, but still there we find that in terms of funding, facilities, coaching, training programs, we do find that there is some sort of a discrimination or a difference. And the next is on gender bias. And we find a certain sport often which was felt was male dominated, but it's even the social norms, the cultural norms, especially India, a country like India where the cultural societal norms are such that even you'd find that the community and the society would not promote. So these female have to challenge, for example, wrestling or bringing to certain sport, which is a male dominated sport. But we have found in rural areas where these women who have become leaders, they have actually brought in medals for the country, and that particular village has turned out to be for wrestling for the women. So I think it's something which to change, where the mother wasn't wearing a typical kind of a dress, but it's because the daughter says, no, it's okay, you can do it. So I think these are kind of the challenges, but there are people we need, who break these barriers. And there also be safety concerns. That's another major issue, because a country like India, where you don't find everywhere maybe well-lit roads or facilities, and how safe it is, things are better. But I think much more is required, because if women feel that they're safe, girls feel they're safe, the parents would leave their daughters to sport. So at times there are constraints and challenges. Things are okay. I would not say everything is good, but these are one of the major challenges, especially in a country like India.
Thanks, Usha. Ava, come to you next.
Well, in addition to that, I think it's still prejudice towards women in sport that we need to overcome. And in Germany, it's often the problem of combining the sports job and the family. So, for example, if you are a coach and you might have to travel abroad for weeks at a time, for males, this seems to be no problem at all. But for female, it's always the question, what you're going to do with the children. So that's especially in Germany, I think that's one of the biggest issues, and still also has to do with the prejudice, like traditional roles within the family.
Great. You mentioned some interesting points there, and I know that, Helen, you've been working on projects that are looking at barriers in young females in particular. So do you just want to tell us what the barriers you think are stopping females?
Before I actually talk a little bit about maybe what's happening in the Game Changers project, well, that's a higher education project to try and encourage more females. I'm sure we've all heard of the gender pay gap. Well, for me, it starts like much earlier than that. So there's also a gender play gap. And what I mean by that is, we've got to look at ourselves. Again, it's about changing the narrative here, but right in primary age, encouraging as mothers, as fathers, as uncles, as sisters, as daughters, as brothers, encouraging more girls that it's okay to do a bit of rough and tumble play, to actually play sports and to make that the norm. Because the more we do that, the more we're then encouraging girls to come through the system, through the education system, playing more sport, the more we will then create more opportunities for them to go into leadership and etc. So my take is it's, and I know that's a systemic change and a huge one, but I think that's possibly the way forward. Within higher education, we have a project running called the Game Changers, and that is exactly about harnessing a group of women students and developing their confidence and their leadership skills. So within the UK, I think there's something like 57% of females actually attend university. Okay, and that's across all courses. If you look at a lot of sport courses within the UK, there's massive disparities. So, for example, within Sheffield, in our institution, in sport coaching last year, we had 16% females. In sport business management, we had 14% females. So the Game Changers project is designed to work with a group of females through, advocacy, through setting up social media profiles and what have you, to try and raise awareness around that, and also with a longer term aim of increasing or recruiting more females onto higher education sport courses, and that's right across the board, from PE through to sport business management through to sport coaching.
Just while we're on that, Helen, what do you think the barriers are stopping females from entering higher education sport courses?
I think, again, it's you have to track it right back. You have to track it right back to a little girl growing up, what she's been exposed to. Has sport been the norm for her or not? Has she been encouraged to, actually engage as a participant, to engage as a coach, to engage as a volunteer? So yeah, I think that and then there are other problems that actually, so the more you're restricted, the more you're then not going to progress to the next level or to the next opportunity or whatever that might be. So it's a very complex picture, don't get me wrong. That's not the only reason. But I think that is a significant reason. The pool becomes smaller, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you've all mentioned there's some barriers to lots of different barriers, resources, whether the financial, whether the facilities, whether the opportunities we've got, the cultural, the safety, etc. And you all come from different areas, global areas around the world. So, and you are all high profile women sports leaders. So I just want you to share with you, if it's okay, how you have got involved in sport. I know a lot of you, some of you have played sport, but you all now work in the sports industry and you're all at the pinnacle of your career. So I'm going to come to you first, Ava. How did you get involved in sport? What facilitated that? And why did you overcome some of the barriers that we've mentioned? How did you overcome?
Well, I've started playing sport at a very young age. So when I started school, I went to different clubs. I played tennis, I did track and field, I played basketball, and I've always had a passion for sport, and I watched the Olympic Games on TV since a very young age, or football, and I was just always fascinated with it. So when I came towards the end of my school career, I knew I want to do something with sports. So in Germany, we have the German Sports University in Cologne, and I thought, okay, I want to go there, and that's how I got into it. And then I combined that with communications and media, and I found out that the International Paralympic Committee has their headquarters just around the corner in Bonn, which is half an hour from Cologne. So I signed up for an internship. And that's how it all started. And then I stayed there for 10 years, and I had a wonderful mentor who brought me into the International Paralympic Committee, and that was really the start of it. And ever since then, I'm within the sports field, and I don't want to miss it.
So you've had those opportunities that were there, and I'm guessing you were encouraged from an early age because you took part in sport. You had role models, you had a family that supported that and was able to support that. Am I right in that? So Usha, just coming to you, how did you get involved in sport, and how did you overcome maybe some of the barriers that you were challenged by?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't an easy task because I'm short. When you talk about sportsmen, there's a different thing. And I would see others playing, and my initial, but it was the teacher, the PE teacher, who said, come on, go ahead. And I took into volleyball, a game which is not for, but during those days, it was okay. So I'd be with the ball, onto the wall, keep practicing, because I felt I was an odd person out, but I struggled. But I did get support from my parents. And my sister was much better because she was a great athlete, and I had to struggle to get into. I got into this. I excelled. There were teachers and others who supported me, and we did through the school meet. It was only the school that I had taken up the particular sport. I again joined the profession because my teacher had said there's an institute of physical education, which is a national institute. I need to try getting in, and I got in. That was the only institute in the country. And after that, going in there, I did participate for the nationals and doing my bachelor's, master's, PhD, and I got to the same line. But the problems that I encountered, it wasn't, so I was saying that I used to keep telling the others, now things are much easier. I'm trying to guide the others. And when during my time, because you can see it's in the year 1980s, because 1977 I joined. And now there's a vast difference. But I got into the various roles of leadership, because that's what the Physical Education Institute did give us, these kind of skills like mentoring and bringing about a leader within oneself. This is what I got in from the college, from the university, and being again in a national institute, which helped me to come up. I think it gave me the freedom and the wings where I could take up more, experiment onto things, what was possible besides the sport. So I think that's how it came in. And finally, I think I've reached one of the top, the only university, sports university in the country. Now I owe everything to God, but now I'm getting ample opportunities, and where I have ample, giving freedom for girls and platform where I feel There are ample leaders. They only need a platform. They need a freedom where they could step in. And I'm sure if every woman and girls are given an opportunity to dream, just give them a wings to fly, I think our world would be much better place. And that's what I look forward to. Country, like I think of India, because I think when you talk of country, culture wise is different. And for me, I get a lot of support from my parents, my husband, which is usually not seen in a country like India. So I think I owe everything to God, and that's what I'm here today.
Bravo, bravo, Usha. Fabulous. And you demonstrate the role of the narrative and the storytelling. And now you are the Vice Chancellor of the National Sports University in India. And I'm sure if you tell that story to all the females that are in your university and the males to dream and raise brilliant, superb. Yeah, I think storytelling and the narrative and giving people that vision is so important. So yeah, nicely said, Usha. Helen, top that.
Well, yeah, I mean, opportunity creates opportunity, doesn't it? So I go back to the, you know, the gender play gap that I spoke about. I was very fortunate in that I was brought up in a sporty family. You know, mum was a runner, dad played badminton, brother played rugby. I never, although I did face barriers, I guess growing up in sport, those barriers did not exist sort of within my family. They were really supportive of me, you know, sort of continuing that journey. So that then created a real interest in sport. I actually moved into the sport of hockey, of which I played at Premier National League level for about 19 years actually. Alongside of that, I obviously got involved. I also got involved in coaching for England hockey, and then that passion led to, you know, I think I want to work in sport. Right, I'm gonna pursue a degree in sport in higher education. So then off I went, and then the rest is sort of history from there. I then got my job working for the local authority in developing sporting opportunities for lots of people, which then opened up the doors to go work for national governing bodies of sport. I worked for England basketball, for example, for a while, and then that opportunity then created. I went to work for the national coaching organisation that's now known as UK Coaching within the UK, and then I made the move into higher education. With a real sort of passion of wanting to be able to create, you know, the next generation, not just obviously of female people working in sport, but you know, that real sort of innate drive and motivation was probably coming from my experiences in sport.
Brilliant. It's lovely to see the stories and how 3 prolific sports leaders here have risen through and overcome those barriers. And one thing that's really coming through is obviously you've all got a great passion for sport and you love the sport, but you've had mentors or role models, whether those are parents or teachers or people you've worked with, and those have inspired you. And now you are the generation that's inspiring the young generation coming through. So it's fabulous to see. I just want to come back to you, Eva, with the next question, which is, you've touched on this briefly with, you mentioned about organisations having quotas and positively discriminating and having, you know, wanting to bring in more females into the workplace. And obviously you work with many stakeholders and many big organisations, and the media plays a big role in this. But how do you think sports organisations can support women to succeed? We've already given some examples, but I was particularly interested in when you mentioned the quota in the question a few questions ago. So I'll pose that question to you.
Well, the quota, we didn't take this decision very lightly, because obviously we also got some not so nice reactions to it from the membership, actually, because what we're doing there is we say we need a certain percentage of delegates at the annual General Assembly to be female. And some of our members, they struggled with that. And so we gave them a few years of being able to reach that goal. But by then, I think we said 2026, they have to bring in that percentage of female delegates. Otherwise, they will lose some of their voting rights. So we're really strict on that one, because we want to make a difference now. And we've done it on a now I'm missing the word. We've tried it before without having the quota, and nothing has changed too much. So we've risen to 20%, but we never reached above that. So that's why we introduced the quota. And I think it can work. And we'll see. I mean, we will really see in a few years what we have achieved, because now the federations have to go out and find the women, because I believe they are there. They're just not brought up and not encouraged to engage themselves within the federation. And I think they're definitely there. So engaging them, promoting them, and encouraging them to do more and be more engaged within the federation, that I think we will achieve that now. And the other thing is, what we've done in our federation before is mentorship programs where female where athletes also who are looking for a job for after their athletic career, they have mentors and they have role models they can talk to and find out a way how to get involved.
Thanks, Eva. And well, we've all worked on different committees and federations and governing bodies, and it's not just Germany or Europe that has this issue of struggling with changing that philosophy or attitude that females should be represented on these types of organisations. So thanks, Eva. Helen, come to you next on that same question.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Eva about, you know, I fundamentally believe that those women are out there. We have, you know, excellent potential leaders out there. We have, you know, women with extremely strong skill sets that would fulfill a lot of these roles really, really effectively. But, you know, are the barriers still there in terms of making those opportunities attractive to those women? It's back to the whole, you might have been familiar with the term, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So the less you see other women in, you know, leadership roles, the less you might potentially believe that you can do it yourself. So it is systemic again. I mean, it's quite interesting, Eva, talking about the quota there, because UK Sport did something similar with having a 30% quota on boards back in 2016, and they have actually achieved that. But sorry, not UK Sport, Sport England. They have actually achieved that through their Code for Sports Governance. But that's with organisations that are either financially influenced by, you know, the national driving body Sport England. If you look at other commercial clubs or whatever that are not necessarily reliant on that Sport England funding, you're looking at things like board positions of sitting around 8%. So, you know, massive disparities again there in comparison to, yes, we're a national agency, we will support you, we will give you more money if you hit this quota. That's actually not necessarily happening within the environments where they're a law unto themselves, if you like. So
thanks, Helen. Yeah, really well narrated there. Usha, same question.
Yeah. When I talk from the Indian perspective, I find this one equal access to resources in terms of funding. So now the ministry is coming with certain scholarships, certain funding, projects on women. We also have under the Khelo India, women's sports as one area where the women leagues have been brought in. Another issue is with regard to appointing women into decision-making roles. As rightly pointed out earlier, even in terms of the federations, we find there's a huge disparity, but things are changing. But still, I think there's a huge struggle where women have to work, maybe trouble. It's a challenge when it comes to roles where, if you talk at the teacher level, at the sports teacher, at the lower level, most of them are women. But as you go up higher and higher into specialized talk of coaches, are at a higher level of decision makers, you find it will be more of male. Things are changing, and also investing in skill building, mentorship, leadership program, and equal pay, as mentioned. Things are changing even in women. Like we often come up with cricket for men, women, things have changed because we have to fight to get what the rights are. But for that, it's important that women speak up. I think in all these cases, it was important, but there are moves and things have changed. Another important thing is creating a safe environment. If you find that the girls, there are certain policies and protocols which the organization should come up with, where women have a freedom to work. The environment prevailing should be such that even she's respected, she's valued. And as also mentioned earlier, supporting work-life balance. For example, for female, if we can have a training, flexibility in the training schedule, because here, same is the case here, it's the mothers who have to take care of the children. It is the daughters who have to at times do the household chores. So in all this case, the maximum load comes onto women, and celebrating the achievement of women, which India is doing. And with that, these people, these women or these girls who have changed and brought in a change, their stories are the ones which are bringing up the next generation leaders, in which there are further Olympians which have been produced. So I think it's a great hit for those from the rural areas where you can't think where they didn't have any facility, where the parent had to struggle to bring up the children. In terms of economically, most of those who get into sport are from a lower financial strata. I'm talking of the Indian context. But in them, the daughters have made the father proud. I think that's a matter of concern. So that's how the future generation, where they can dream of being a sport. So that's how they knock onto the door. And these girls have been a change maker. So I find they are the real daughters of India. So hats off to all my daughters and my mothers and sisters who have made India proud. I'm making it for India.
Thanks, Usha. And it's interesting to hear that the barriers are similar across the globe, but there's cultural solution. The cultural solutions are different. But I think one of the great successes of webinars like this, where we have an international audience and international speakers, is we can learn from best practice about actually not one size fits all, but there's some really good examples about how we can overcome some of these barriers. So it's really good to hear these examples. Just for the people on the call, we're going to try and use the last 5 minutes to take any questions. So do type in the chat if you've got any questions just before we go to the last question. So the last question, and I'll come to, who shall I come to? I'll come to Eva first. Regardless of gender, Eva, what qualities do you see or have seen that the best leaders in sport possess? What are the top 3 qualities you can name, regardless of gender?
For me, it's empathy. Not only being like analytical, but knowing what your also knowing what your employees feel and make them feel seen. I think it's honesty and it's humility. Those are my top 3.
Perfect. Helen.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with Eva's honesty as one of those qualities. I think it's all about relationships. You're dealing with people in the vast majority of cases. So, ensuring that you are nurturing, developing really positive relationships, and within that comes authenticity, comes honesty, comes integrity, and so on. The other one that I would add to that is, the sort of growth mindset and the adaptability to change. We all know across the globe now that things are changing so exponentially quickly now that we can't sit on our and indeed leaders can't sit on their laurels and not change with things and not be proactive. So I guess it's the open to learning and the willing to change as well.
You only had 3, but you've given me about 12.
Have I? Well, there, you can have 12.
Thanks, Helen. And Usha, what do you think?
Yeah. Vision and strategic thinking, effective communication, inspiring leadership, resilience, adaptability, as rightly pointed out, emotional intelligence, decision making, accountability, integrity, collaboration, team building. I think all has been mentioned. We put it together. I think that's what the best leaders in sports possess.
Thanks. And Usha, I'm glad you said resilience there, because we've mentioned lots of barriers, and we've mentioned that we may be minoritized in where we sit, in whichever country we sit in. And I do think resilience is such an important trait that anybody should have in life. And you know that the younger population have so many social issues and challenges, but do you think as a society we teach resilience well? Anybody jump in?
Can you teach it, or is it, well,
Yeah.
I guess to a level you can teach certain elements of it, but I think it's about expect this whole thing around actually failure sometimes is okay, and failure is actually often okay. That some of the best runners of not just sport but business in the world experience failure so many times, but it's actually that made them learn from it and get them to where they are today. So, and again, I don't know, I can't speak for Germany or India or elsewhere in the world, but I do think in the UK we have a bit of a thing around almost fear of failure. It's okay, it's healthy, it's part of the journey.
Ava or Usha, do you want to add anything to that?
I can totally.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Ava, you go first.
I can totally relate to what Helen said. I think fear of failure, it's there in Germany as well, and within organizations. So resilience and overcoming that is really important.
Usha?
Yeah, to me, resilience, you said of teaching, it's not of teaching, it's I think something which we need to imbibe in. That's because when you use the word teach, and I think as you said, failures, sport is the best leader, because failures and we encounter, and every time you fall you stand up, and that's what makes such a great leader too. So I think our field is great, a great profession.
You're quite right correcting me when I did say teach. It's how do we develop resilience, isn't it? And everybody's got a role to play in that. But I often find, and obviously we work in education, I work in education, I often find that in sport we want everybody to win. We teach kids that it's, we try and say it's not about the winning, it's about the taking part, but really everybody wants to win. And then when they don't win, it's how do they deal with that? So it's teaching that as well. And it's a thing that's hard to develop and instill, but it's so needed in society, and it's so needed by female leaders in sport. So there's no questions in the chat at the moment. We've got 5 minutes left. So if anybody wants to raise their hand, hopefully we can switch on their microphone if anyone's got any burning questions they'd like to ask the panel before I go to the last. We've got somebody here. Can we switch on the microphone for Lucrezia? Barbara, can you switch Lucrezia's microphone on? Is that possible? Lucrezia, if you...
Hello? Hi?
Yes, go ahead.
I had no opportunity to write in the chat. It was somehow frozen, but okay. My question was just to know what is for you the most important soft skills for a woman to work in sport environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucrezia. So we kind of mentioned some of the soft skills. You mentioned empathy, honesty, humility, relationships, integrity. Is there any other soft skills you think are missing from the list that you've already named? Anybody?
I think Usha mentioned one, which was, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a big one. Obviously, being very aware of ourselves and managing our emotions, but also being aware of other people's. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because as females, as women, we tend to be branded as quite good at the soft skills, actually. And sometimes when we step outside of the soft skills, we're often seen as maybe aggressive or too assertive or whatever that might be. So Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Soft skills are obviously incredibly important in terms of success, I think.
And for me, it's also resilience that you mentioned before, Ruth. It's I think we need that a lot.
Yeah. And I think Usha rattled off about 12 different types of soft skills that are so important. And I see in the three people in front of me that we thought they possess those skills, and maybe that's why they've got to the top of the tree, and the other female leaders in their organisations. Thanks, Lucrezia, for that question. The next person I've got up is number 2, which unfortunately I've only got Waj titled. So Waj, do you want to come and ask your question?
Yes, thank you very much. So my question is related to the women being included in federations and how there are not enough women. And it comes from my experience where I want to ask, how can the women, myself being included, who are not part of the federation for reasons that are related to power and maintaining in power by those who are in the federation themselves, get their voices heard by international federations who shunt us down because they think we're not part of the system, but we try to be part of the system and we don't know how to do that. And so how do we get that officiality or be heard and respected, even though we're not being are able to be part of a local federation just because we are being shunned and for reasons, you know, that politics, corruption, and other stuff. And
Thanks, Waj. I'm going to take that question. We've only got a few minutes left. It's interesting you're the first person within an hour to mention the word power, even though we've alluded to it. But I'm going to ask Eva, can you answer that question that Waj has just presented?
It's a difficult one because, you know, I am working within a federation, and I know that in the sports structure internationally and nationally is very strict or not very flexible. So I can't really give you an answer on that. Honestly, I'm sorry.
I think I'm just going to jump in, Helen, because there's a few more people with questions and we've only got 2 minutes left. I do think power is a good word, and we do see power in all the organisations that we come across. Resilience, but also using the skills, and not just the soft skills that we've mentioned, but using your expertise to get onto those federations and be proactive and keep doing that. I've worked on a number of federations, and I've worked on federations where I've been the only female, but keep that your framework and what you want to achieve, and do not lose sight of that, would be my advice. 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. So I've got a question from Maria. Please, Maria Donald. Maria? Unfortunately, we can't hear Maria, so I'm going to move to Irvi.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. So go Maria, go, go for it.
Sorry, I just wanted to apologize that I wasn't connected because I wanted to introduce all the female leaders who are very honorable in the diverse organizations, especially also the XP, and that we really have a good cooperation in female leaders within the organizations, and so it is very good. The word cooperation is very important. So.
Thanks, Maria. And sorry that you couldn't connect with us, but we will come back to you on a next GTE to bring that. But Pascal Pascal did a nice presentation of the findings of that initiative. Final question to Irvi, Joshi. So if you'd like to come on and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. Namaste, everyone. It's me, Irvi. I'm from India. So I will greet you in Indian language only. Namaste. And I am a karate player, a traditional karate player from ITKF. So my question is that I am a female. So I'm a female player. So most of the people saying that a female karate is that she is not that, you know, stronger than boys. So they used to provoke me. Like now also they are provoking me by something like, you know, Mamusha, how would they provoke us? So how can I control my tempo? Do you have any suggestion in that expertise, please?
That's a brilliant question, Irvi. That's a superb question. So I'm going to come to Usha first, and then I'll come to Helen.
Yeah.
How can she control her temper when she gets a little bit?
I think, Urvi, it's great. And let people say anything. I find at the end of the day, you are strong, powerful, so we need not bother. And I think that's what most of our female do that. And that can help us, because you would get this across a society. Do not think that anybody is going to appreciate us and think. We have to push ourselves, come out of it. And I don't think there's anyone who can stop you from going ahead. So that's what you need to play with the males, with the men. You need to train with the men. So I don't think, and you, once you become stronger, you can challenge them, and that's what's going to come in. So I'm sure this would not be a problem at all for you. So when you're back here, you can just give me a call later.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
Have to mention one more thing. Like, I am a schooler. I just completed my 10th class board exam. So my teacher used to provoke me, like, when I'm not sick, I don't have any interest in studying, by the way. I really don't have any interest in studying. So I used to do sports all the day. But not all the day. I used to there and sit in the class also. But they used to, like, in parents teacher meeting, they used to say, like, to my mother, like, she always used to talk, or she always used to be with her friends group and all. But they used to say that you don't study, you don't have to do that, you just focus on study, just leave sports and all those things. So one
Thank
time
you. I'm going to just jump in here, Irvi. Thank you thanks for your question, and I'm going to try and pose your question and what you've raised just with one last sentence from each of our panelists, just to inspire you. And that temper that you say you have, I wouldn't say it's temper, I'd say it's passion and power to work in the sports industry. So I'm just going to come around the panel with one closing sentence for all the people that are listening. What is the one sentence you would state to inspire our female leaders of now and the future? So I'm going to come to Usha first.
Let us invest in women, give them the freedom to dream, wings to fly. For this investment will not only transform individual lives, but will also pave the way for a more equitable and prosperous future for all.
Perfect. Thank you, Usha. Very inspirational. Ava, one sentence from you, please.
Well, don't hold back on anything. Don't hold back your passion. Don't control your temper. The more you try to control it, the less control you will have over it. So don't hold back, empower, be empowered. And also I want to encourage everyone, every woman within sport to, strive towards your goals.
Perfect. Thank you, Ava. And Helen, one last sentence from you, please.
Stand up for yourself, stand up for yourself, stand up for every single female that's around you, stand up for what you believe in. Sometimes do it in a, not necessarily an aggressive way, but a proactive, assertive way, and let's continue to celebrate the stuff that we're doing well. We are doing some really great work across the globe. Let's continue to celebrate that and share that as well. Thank you.
Nicely said, and that draws us nicely to the end of this session. I think it's been really thought-provoking. I think it's been great to have an open discussion and learn from examples around the world. But I think it's brilliant to hear the news and the celebration and the good news that we are progressing and we are making big steps. And although we got more to go, watch this space, because we're doing great things. And I'd firstly like to thank our panelists, Ava, Usha and Helen, who have joined us today, international sports leaders, female sports leaders at the top of their institution, and inspiring the world and inspiring the next generation. So thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us today. And I'd also like to thank the ICSPE office, particularly Patrick, Pascal and Barbara, for helping coordinate this. I hope you've enjoyed today's Global Teaching Excellence. If you want to re-listen to this, we will be posting it up live on our website. So do join in if you want to listen back to that. And thank you to our audience for taking the time out today. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Stay safe, keep inspiring the next generation and keep doing great work. Thanks very much on behalf of me and ICSPE and also the WASM. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Ruth. Great job.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah,
team.
Helen and Werthman. Yeah, Helen,
Thanks.
nice meeting you too.
Thanks, Usha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye, Usha. See you later. Bye.